If you're a middle-class American looking to build wealth and you're wondering why it's so hard, it might not be your fault. I've taught economics for the last 10 years, and so in this video, I want to go over the consumerism trap with you from a macroeconomic and a behavioral economics perspective. And it's a trap that if you sidestep, will help you retire in a totally different income class altogether. And there are actually 3 forces working against you. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you how you can avoid these 3 forces that are working against you to build wealth, to retire happily, so you don't have to worry about money again. Let's get started. The first thing that we want to talk about is the institutional incentive to deceive. You might be thinking the system is broken. Nothing is working for you, but in fact, it is actually working exactly as intended. Let me tell you a story. Let's say you finally get that raise that you've been grinding for. You should feel proud, but all you can think about is the fact that you're driving a 2016 SUV or old car, it's outdated, and meanwhile your coworker just pulls into the parking lot with something that looks like a spaceship. So you head to the dealership and they show you a $70,000 model and offer 10K off just for today, and you leave thinking you got a great deal. But what you don't know is that you just signed up for a 72-month loan. Your take-home pay went up by like 8%, but your car payment jumped by 25%. The government's economic reports, however, will show GDP growth. That's good, right? For the economy. Yes, but what is the economy? The economy is made up of its people, the rich and the poor. So who is it really good for? Okay, you were nudged, and this is a form of behavioral economics called nudging. You were nudged not by the salesman, but by the system that was designed to reward your spending, not your saving. Let's give you another example. Your 401k is automatically enrolled at 5%, maybe even with an employer match. That seems pretty reasonable, pretty responsible, right? You're saving for your retirement, but no one told you that at that rate, you'll still retire broke. No one told you that 5% will never be enough for you to retire. Your savings rate needs to be 15, 20, 30, 40% if you want to retire earlier. If you want to retire on time, it needs to be at least 15%, depending on the salary that you have. But you know, the default, the unspoken choice, those were never designed for you to win. The system was never designed for you to prosper, to win. And so the rules, if they are not written for your freedom, then what were they written for? They were written for stability. You see, there's always this trade-off in economics between personal well-being and collective well-being. There's this trade-off between, do I spend all my money today and be happy and be good, versus do I save for my family? Do I get taxed on my income today, or do I not get taxed on my income today? And that's a governmental decision. And so there's always a trade-off. The government has to decide how many cookies do we want to give you today, right? And how many cookies do we want to save for the future? But the reality is, if you want to have a future, you gotta save your own cookies. And you know, once you realize this, the question you should stop asking is, what's normal? You don't ask that question anymore, because what's normal is not important. What's normal is not good for you. Normal is living paycheck to paycheck. Normal is buying a nicer car. Normal is buying fancier clothing. Normal is working a 9-to-5 you hate. Normal is never being able to give the people you love the life they deserve, because you've been following headlines, you've been keeping up with the Joneses. The question you should be asking instead is, what is optimal? Regardless of whatever the institutions want, right? The companies want you to spend money. The government wants you to spend money. They want you to save certain amounts of money, just barely enough so that you'll spend all of it anyways later on, so you'll never build any generational wealth. This is not the desire of the individual. There's no one person working for a company or working for the government that wishes for your demise. It's just how the system was built for economic growth. And economic growth overall overall is good for the economy and for society, but it leaves some people behind. It creates inequality. I'm sure you've noticed that over the last 57 years, how wide the wealth gap and the income gap has gotten as a result of economic growth, as a result of policies that favor the rich, because they're the ones making the policies, honestly. And so once you realize all of this, you will turn down the upgrade. You will increase your savings because you know that that is optimal. So the next time you get a raise, a windfall income, reassign that money to wealth building. Invest in an index fund. Manually increase your 401k contributions up to 20, maybe even 30%. Maximize it, right? Maximize those contributions. That's an olive branch that the government gives you, right? You have a choice, right? They also give that olive branch so that you cannot complain, right? If you complain that, like the government didn't set us up for success, no one set us up for success, the government will be like, you know what? Like you could have contributed more to your 401k. Why didn't you, right? Without saying that no one ever taught you anything about personal finance. But now you know. It's there. It's a choice that you have so that the government can absolve themselves of any responsibility of your financial failure. But what that means is now that you have this education, you can make that decision to do better for yourself. Stop seeing good deals as wins. Start thinking about what you actually need and what you should actually be buying that will actually improve your life. And by the way, if you don't know what actually improves your life, try to start buying things that save you time and see how that goes, right? Like instead of buying a nicer car and having an extra $500 to $1,000 monthly payment, try hiring someone to cook for you, hiring someone to clean your home, to organize your home for you once a week, or maybe even once every 2 weeks. And that's going to save you hours. And try doing that and see how your life will change. That's a hint of what you could do with your money. If the system is built on your spending, the most rebellious thing you can do is keep your money. Just keep it, invest it, save it. That's the definition of going against the grain. And guess what? That is what will help you end up way above average in a different income class. But even if you do so, there's another thing I want you to think about. And this is something I'm gonna call the false promise of the good life, the American dream. The American dream is certainly real, right? Some people start from nothing and become very, very wealthy through their own hard-earned hard work, and they make it, and that's great. But most of us have an impression of the American dream that is misaligned with the kind of experience that I just described. You're not chasing happiness. You might just be chasing an algorithmically engineered illusion of success. And so let's say you're scrolling through Instagram during your lunch break, and one couple's in Italy, another just got a new Tesla, and you look up from your phone and you tell yourself, we're doing okay, but we should be further ahead. I feel behind. So many Americans feel behind. And so you book the trip, right? You deserve it. You deserve a few days off. You put it on the card and you're like, I'll figure it out later. I need this right now. This is some R&R that is well deserved. I've worked so hard for this. And maybe you have worked hard, but certainly when you made that decision, you weren't thinking about what you could afford and what you couldn't afford. You were just looking at the people around you and thinking to yourself, man, I wish I could be like them, without realizing that you are consuming a curated version of their lives, and curated 2 layers. Curated by them, because they're not going to show you the bad parts of their life. They're not going to show you that they had fights throughout their vacations. They're not going to record that, right? They're only going to show you the poolside margarita, right? And the stunning views, right? And all the happy times, right? The extreme sports, right? They're not going to show you the fact that they didn't even have a good meal from all the traveling, them arguing with each other about where they should be and where to go, them arguing about the money that they spend, what they should be spending, what they shouldn't be spending. They're not going to show you any of that. The trip is great. Don't get me wrong. Like if you go on a vacation, it's fun, it's fantastic. But for a moment, when you get home, you realize that your balance is $6,000 higher. Your peace is $6,000 lower, and that's when the guilt sets in. That dopamine hit from going on the trip, from being on the safari, gone. And it won't be the last time either. You might get a new phone, you might renovate your home, a new car, some kind of new goal. Every luxury has a hangover, and now you're stuck. You're chasing that high, and you feel guilty afterwards. You feel bad. You go back to work, all right, only for the next high. high and you're living for the next high. You're not building a life, you're funding a highlight reel for Instagram. And it's not until you sit down and you realize that the good life you've been chasing was never yours. Every time you buy a car, every time you go on a vacation, you are making someone else rich. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just want to make sure that you're not doing that and making yourself poor at the same time. Because you are always accumulating debt. You might be accumulating a debt in this situation that you'll have to pay back with more than just your money in the future. With your health, with your mental health, with your relationships, right? All of those are things that you might be using to pay back your debt that you've accrued, even if you're just paying back money. All of that, the good life, the car commercials, designed by marketers, fueled by credit, no kidding, because who doesn't have a car payment, and wrapped in the fear of missing out. Here you go, take it, have it. What you actually want, the true essence of the American dream, lies in time freedom, in peace, in purpose, in ownership over assets that provide you a cash flow, that give you the peace of mind and freedom. Those things don't come in a box, right? They come from having the margin from your income and your spending differences to buy assets, fund the building of assets that will give you freedom. You know, one thing that I always looked up to growing up was the American eagle, the symbol of freedom. But when you look at your life today, are you really free? Are you? You know, in the Bible it says that the debtors are slaves to the creditors, right? The borrowers are slaves to the lenders. Are slaves free? No, they're not. Are there ways you can game the system? Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could take out low interest debt. You could start a business with it. Are there ways to work with debt? Yes. Is that the way most Americans are working with debt? Is that the way you are working with debt? Probably not, right? You probably can't afford to fund your lifestyle with debt like Jeff Bezos and use Amazon stock as collateral, right? You probably can't, right? You probably might not have understood what I just said, and that's okay, right? In that situation, just avoid it. Avoid debt, especially high interest debt. You have no idea how good it feels when you have no debt, when you have a couple $1,000s. It doesn't take much, just a couple $1,000s left over every single month, and you don't even feel strained. You don't even need to budget. You're just living life. Go on a vacation over the weekend if you want to, right? You can go for a nice dinner if you want to. You can buy your son the best formula, give him the best teachers for his extracurricular classes. Man, the joy that comes from being able to give your family the life they deserve is second to none. And so the way you want to do that is you want to think about, well, what is that 10-year vision? What does the meaningful life look like? What does the free life actually look like? Stop comparing yourself with other people. Don't benchmark and be like, you know what, the free life looks like 4 vacations a year because the Joneses are going on 4 vacations a year, and so we want to be like them and they're rich. Think for yourself. Plan your ideal day, because if you can live your ideal day every single day, well, then you have an ideal life. Track your net worth, not how much stuff you own, not the brand of your car. Create spending rules. If it doesn't increase freedom, it's not worth it. So you need to sit down and define what freedom is. Is it more time? Is it ownership? Is it being able to buy more luxurious things without taking a hit on your net worth? You were sold luxury. You were sold the idea that if you could buy all of this stuff, all the LV, Gucci, Prada bags, the Mercedes, the Porsches, the Lamborghinis, if you had the luxury, then you'd be free. That was a symbol of freedom, and certainly it could be. What you actually need is liberation. You see, freedom doesn't come from luxury. Luxury comes from freedom. And so pursue freedom first. The last thing that I want to talk about, and it doesn't matter if you follow the first 2 things, if you understand the first 2 forces that are working against you, if you don't understand this last one, none of it will matter, because we are social creatures. And on the topic of social, by the way, if you're curious on what it's like to work with me, I actually have a coaching program. And so if you want to build financial freedom for yourself, but you don't want to go at it alone, maybe you've tried and you failed, click the link below, reach out, and we'll talk. But aside from that, let's move on to number 3, the black sheep effect. The idea here is that if you stop playing the game, people will make you feel like you're losing, even when you're winning. And so you might be thinking, what is the game? What I'm talking about is the status game. Naval Ravikant talks about this in his book. Let me start with a story. All right, let's say, you're going going through some financial hurdles and you tell your friends you're downsizing. You want to move to a smaller home. And you know what you expect is you expect congratulations for being smart, right? For being like financially responsible. But instead, you get blank stares. Your friends literally look at you like, are you okay? Are things okay financially? Are they tight? And even though they sound like they are concerned, they sound like they care, deep down, you know the subtext. The subtext is, oh, you must be failing. But the truth is you're not failing. You're optimizing, right? You make a lot of money, you live in a bigger home. If you make less money, you live in a smaller home. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing shameful about that, right? You're optimizing your finances so you can still save money, so you're not stressed about money. But when you're in a suburb where everyone is leasing luxury SUVs and everyone's upgrading a part of their home every 5 years, a pool there, a cabinet there, a sunroof there, choosing less feels like social suicide. You start doubting your decision and you consider just holding out a little bit longer before making the move. You're like, what if things can turn around? What if GameStop 10x's itself? Then I'll have money to pay my credit card bills. So let's just wait another month and see what happens. Your old neighbors certainly can't see anything that you do, anything that is inside your home, the arguments, the stress. Your neighbors certainly can't see that, but your kids do. Your stress, your kids notice it, your spouse notices it. But imagine if all of that was gone. Your stress is gone. Your evenings are longer. You're working less. You can spend more time with kids. Even though you're living in a 2-bedroom apartment or a 3-bedroom apartment, you're free. And you know what? 5 years later, 10 years later, you might have exited your 9 to 5 while your friends, your neighbors, the ones driving the luxury cars, they're still stuck. And they're wondering how you manage to do what you do. And all the while, you know they know. They're just unwilling to face the music. You're not a black sheep. In fact, if you were a sheep, then you'd just be the first one out of the pen. You've escaped the matrix, the system that was set up for you to fund the lives of the people that built it. So stop broadcasting for approval. Build quiet wealth. I mean, Alex Hormozi put it nicely. Alex Hormozi is this millionaire, that business person, let's just put it that way. And so one day he was showing up for an event he was running for a bunch of gym owners. He showed up in this Prius and this lady walked up to him and he was like, I thought you were supposed to be rich, right? And his response, a little bit proud, was like, you know what? Yeah, look at my bank account. Don't look at the car I drive. And you know what? He's right. Look at the bank account, right? Most people don't see the bank account, right? Most people see the clothes, the house, the bags, the car, without realizing that the net worth is negative, because we don't have to show net worth to our neighbors, to our friends, maybe even to our families. Make a decision now to increase wealth, but not necessarily status. Do it anyway. Build a new tribe. Seek out friends. They exist. People like me exist. People like me, where you don't see how I'm driving a nice car, driving a Porsche, but I'm perfectly comfortable, perfectly content with where I am at and the wealth that I'm building over the long term. Seek out friends who value freedom over flexing. And the thing is, if everyone thinks you're crazy, you're probably onto something. So what does all of this mean for you? Well, if you want to escape the trap, you want to redefine the game, you want to rewire the definition of wealth from what you earn to what you own without obligation. You know, financial peace comes from having ownership and having the option. Chances are, if you're able to buy a Lamborghini, by then you'll realize that it's probably not worth it to buy one, right? If you can afford it, you'll probably be smart enough to not do it. Or maybe you'll get to a point where a Lamborghini is 1% of your net worth, that it becomes trivial. Set a new benchmark. Track net worth and freedom, not income and lifestyle. Use a wealth efficiency ratio. So what is the percentage of your income that is being used to build permanent wealth? Permanent wealth can come from stocks, can come from real estate, can come from a business, can come from skills that you own. Automate everything. Automate your rebellion against the system. Reverse it. Set up auto transfers to investments first, then live on the rest. Build a minimalist financial lifestyle that you're proud of and not embarrassed by. And that's it.